Government is considering taking over some or all of Eskom's nearly 400 billion rand of debt. The news comes from the International Monetary Fund instead of Treasury or Eskom itself. Alleviating Eskom's debt burden could put it on a path to sustainability. Government has transferred about 1% of annual GDP to Eskom in recent years to keep it afloat. The taxpayer is on the hook either way, so what is the ultimate difference? Well, let's ask energy expert Roger Linney. He joins me now. Roger, thanks so much for joining us. As we were saying, 392 billion rand of the debt pile from Eskom. Would it pay us in terms of being able to restructure and split Eskom into transmission, generation and distribution to just pay off that debt?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to your show, and good morning to all your viewers. Yeah, look, according to Eskom's most recent figures that are published on its website, it says that 40 billion rand was paid off of that debt in the 6 months from April 2021 until September 2021. So if it's able to pay 40 billion off in 6 months, then let's talk about 80 billion in 12 months. Now, the utility says it needs almost 300 billion in order to operate successfully and have sufficient funds to do the maintenance it needs to do, repair work, upgrades, and so on. On the other hand, it's asking for a 20% increase in tariffs in order to raise that amount of money. But here's the thing, if indeed that debt is removed from Eskom's balance sheet, then it doesn't need the 300 billion anymore, because 80 billion of that is not payable by Eskom, and therefore the tariff, instead of being increased, should actually be decreased, because the requirement will now fall below what it received in the previous financial year. Therefore, that would mitigate against any tariff increase. It would also mitigate any more arguments from Eskom that it's unable, from a financial perspective, to do the necessary maintenance that is required to keep the lights on.
Roger, if our government spends, trillions of our budget on debt service costs, would it not be financially viable in order to reduce the interest that we're paying on that debt burden? And if so, could it fast-track the new plans to split Eskom into 3 different sections?
Look, the split of Eskom into 3 different sections, generation, transmission and distribution, is a definite. It's already started. Transmission is already separated. Distribution will be separated by the end of the year, apparently. So this is a definite thing that's going to happen. And it's going to make a big change to the whole electricity supply industry in South Africa. However, I think South Africans mustn't be misled in that the debt still is going to be paid. So whether it's paid by Eskom or whether it's paid by government, government has no money. So at the end of the day, Eskom is simply going to, the government is simply going to have to find that 300 billion somewhere. Does that mean that VAT will go up? Does it mean that personal taxes will go up? What's going to go up? Where's that 300 or 390 billion going to come from? And over what period of time is the government going to pay it off?
I suppose the question is too, what kind of censure or restriction will be given by the IMF if we aren't able to pay that money off?
Yeah, I think it's highly unlikely that South Africa would not be able to pay it off. Whether we'd pay it off within the prescribed period may be another question, but I'm confident that the country would be able to pay their debt off. The point is, though, the money's got to come from somewhere, and so we have to see where that comes from. People have asked whether the new structure with electricity, where the amendment to the Electricity Act will allow the private sector to play a far bigger role in the whole industry in terms of generation, distribution and transmission of electricity, whether that will cost us more. So again, I see a mitigation here. I think there will be some increased costs initially in terms of the restructuring. Those will have to be passed on to electricity users. But I think that we don't need massive tariff increases as have been posed in previous years, where we have been paying well over inflation-linked type or inflation-rated tariff increases, because those in and of themselves are inflationary.
Slightly off topic, Roger, but why, to me, and a quick answer if you can, why does it feel like the race or the procurement of renewables is taking so long?
I think there's a concern in government about letting go. I think there's a concern that they struggle to have this new mindset. When you listen to some of the things that the minister says, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy says, you get the sense that he knows how things were always done in the past and kind of has a resistance to change.
All right, that's a great answer and so succinctly put. Thank you, energy expert Roger Lilly.